Pleasure to catch up with a fellow radio talker from the Sid and Bernie show, rest his soul, Bernard McGurk. Now the Sid Rosenberg show on the great WABC. Here he is, Sid Rosenberg. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. An honor to sit with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I filled in for Hannity a couple of times, and I always had a gulp in my throat that I was on WABC, like I finally arrived. Hey, Mom, I'm on WABC.
Listen, it's a great station. It's one of the real legendary historic stations in the history of our country. Even before you had the Sean Hannitys and God rest his soul, Rush Limbaugh, you had people like Bob Grant, and recently a man that I worked with over an 18-year period who I replaced, Don Imus in the morning. He was there too. So when you look at the litany of talent that's been on that station for the last 50 years, it's amazing I get the best ratings.
I got to read your book, Sid. You're wrong and you're ugly. I just saw that on it's a new. I put it on the top of my list, my man.
You know why the folks they asked me. They said, "What would you want to name your book?" I've written 2 books. That was my first one. Thank you for mentioning that. That was 14 years ago. And I said, "I don't know." Well, they said, "Well, we have an idea for you." And I said, "Well, it seems kind of intrusive for you to pick the name of my book." And they said, "Well, we're going to up your pay $5,000. I said, "Name it whatever you want." But that was kind of my sports personality on the air. I would hang up on you, you're wrong, you're ugly, you're stupid. And I did sports for so many years. In fact, I've been asked the question many times, how does this event, the RNC, compare to a Super Bowl? And it doesn't, in that, look, the RNC is great. I'm friendly with Mike Johnson, the speaker. He was here yesterday. He's a big deal. But there's really one guy you want to talk to. That's Trump. At the Super Bowl, there's 20 Trumps a day. I would sit there for 4 hours, and Joe Montana would walk in, Joe Namath, Terry Bradshaw, Tom Brady. So over a week-long period, it was insane. So it doesn't necessarily compare to a Super Bowl, but it's very exciting nevertheless.
Let's talk a little bit about this convention, Make America Wealthy Again, theme of last night. Obviously some great real American stories that were pretty incredible. What's your takeaway so far after day one? And the big announcement, obviously, on the VP pick.
I didn't love the VP pick. I like J.D. I do. I'm a Marco Rubio guy. Trump is on my show pretty often. And he's on record saying that he doesn't believe a vice president pick is going to win or lose an election. And he's right. He happens to be right. No one knew who Mike Pence was years ago. But I do think Marco would help with the Latino vote. I think Marco is more primed to be president now. And I know Marco from Miami, so I'm kind of biased. And I don't like what J.D. Vance said about Trump in the past. Now, you can move past that. He certainly has. I mean, don't forget, in that first debate, Kamala Harris basically called Joe Biden a racist. A racist. Yeah. And she's his VP. So the fact that J.D. Vance compared him to Hitler and said, well, these are some ugly, ugly statements this guy made. Marco never did that. Small hands, Marco. So there are some things about Vance I don't love. I think he's a bit too conservative for my state, let's say New York. If Trump wants to win New York, his stance on abortion, those types of things, not going to play well. But above and beyond that, look, the fact that Donald Trump was nearly murdered 2 days ago and walked out into that crowd last night, right down the block. It was one of the more magnificent and inspiring moments in the history, not of politics, of humanity. This guy has turned out, Donald Trump, from a guy from my town who built a lot of very, very cool buildings, went on to become a big TV star. But his political career, there's never been anybody who demanded the love, not the hate to, but the love and reverence that Donald Trump has. He will go down as one of the great historic figures, not just politicians, in the history of this country. And how lucky are we to be watching it right now?
That was a Super Bowl of Super Bowls. I know what your analogy on the Super Bowl and 10 Donald Trumps, but I'm telling you, that was a Super Bowl moment last night when that roof almost lifted off.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
It was. And
the first time we're seeing him since an assassination attempt.
Right. And I can tell you, for me, and I'm a pretty tough guy, I cried on Saturday. And I cried last night. And that's my reaction. And let me say this. For folks that know me well, your audience doesn't know me that well, 2016, I voted for Hillary. I really thought, coming off of 8 years of Obama, that this country was a mess. And I've known Trump for 30 years. He was on my show talking sports and Mike Tyson 20 years ago. And I thought, hey, he's a great guy. He's a funny guy. He's going to wear a hat. He's going to build a wall, nickname his opponents. We're dead. I voted against him. But it took me 1 month to realize I made a mistake. You see, most people, when he came down the escalator, if they loved him, they still love him. If they hated him, they still hate him. I wasn't going to be that guy. When he won, I was going to give him a chance. And he proved me wrong very, very early on, and turns out to be, in my opinion, including Reagan, the greatest president in my lifetime.
I couldn't agree with you anymore. Let's talk about Saturday night, and that you called it the attempted murder, which it obviously was an assassination attempt. I get a kick out of these people that say, we're trying to find out what the motive of the shooter was. Is that the stupidest question in the world?
Thank you.
Yeah.
The dumbest thing ever. He tried to kill the president. That's it. That's it. Here's some 20-year-old loser who's going to go down in history for killing maybe the most famous man in the history of the world.
Yeah.
What more motive do you need?
What do you make of what happened? How did that happen?
Look, I don't buy into conspiracy theories. I had Tom Homan on my show today. I've spoken to other people inside the Trump organization, Corey Lewandowski. The whole inside job thing, that bothers me. I mean, yes, if he can prove it down the road, great. And until we know what really happened, I guess everything is out there. But I'm not buying it was an inside job. I think the Secret Service did a bad job. They were lazy. They may have been distracted. They were inept. And look, you've got a lady running the Secret Service who really shouldn't be managing McDonald's, let alone running the Secret Service.
She came from Cheetos. She was
Pepsi. Yeah,
Pepsi which owns
Pepsi.
Cheetos. I mean, she was in charge of Cheetos, for crying out
right.
loud.
And she said nothing, Kimberly Cheeto, for the better part of 2 days. So I'm not going to go as far as, because I'm not a conspiracy theorist, inside job, and we set him
But
up.
we should investigate it, shouldn't we?
100%. And I saw, as you did, Mike Johnson here yesterday. We are going to investigate it. It should be investigated, but it doesn't matter whether it was an inside job, which I think is a fleeting chance, or just ineptitude. Either way, we should never have a person like Donald Trump in a position where he can be killed from 130 yards away.
What do you think the difference will be because of that event in this campaign and what happens in November?
It's a great question. You know, my wife asked me the same thing. She said, do you think that Trump will stop doing outdoor rallies? I can't see it. I can't. You know, that's what Donald Trump does. He appeals to the thousands and thousands. He fills up stadiums like Bruce Springsteen. I mean, that's what he does. And I've seen him do these rallies. Wildwood, New Jersey, 100,000 strong. It was amazing. So I think it'll be more difficult to get to them. It'll make it harder for people to get to these, so the numbers may be less. But do I see a place where Donald Trump stops doing some of the things that got him here? I don't see that.
How about, though, just the impact of what happened? I mean, do you see people that in New York, you know New York backwards and forwards, are there people in New York today that Friday night wouldn't pee on the best part of Donald Trump, that today say, why do they hate this guy so bad? Maybe I ought to start liking this guy.
No. And that's where I think we get a little carried away.
Trump derangement syndrome is too severe?
It's way too severe. I think we're hoping that's the case. Look, everybody uses this word unity. It ain't going to happen. Trump, and I love Donald, he's not going to unify the country. What he's going to do is fix the country because it's broken. He's not going to unify it. Trump derangement syndrome is alive. It's well. It's real. Now, do I think that everybody that hates Trump wanted him to die? No. I think decent people who don't like Trump didn't want him to die, but they're not going to like him today. He's not going to get one extra vote because he was nearly killed. So I believe the word unity is being used way too much the last couple of days. I don't even want unity. I don't care. They're a bunch of liars. I don't trust Joe Biden. I don't think he's being genuine. I don't trust anybody. In fact, I don't trust any Democrats. Donald Trump is not here to unify the country. He's here to fix this country.
Hey, Kev, you got a question?
I did. Sid, you're a New York guy, born and raised. Some people love in New York. And how is New York? I mean, in your assessment, have been a lifetime resident there, I mean, how bad is it?
It's bad. It's a mess. And, I've got a mayor, Democrat, Eric Adams, who was a police officer for the better part of 2 decades. You wouldn't know it because law and order is completely out of control. I've got a mayor, another Democrat, Governor Hochul, as bad as we thought Andrew Cuomo was. She may be worse. And New York, guys, is just a prime example of every city and state across this country that are run by Democrats. Our nicest cities are destroyed. Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Chicago, New York, Atlanta. What do they all have in common? Democrat mayors, Democrat governors. That's just the way it's going to go, folks. If you like what you're seeing right now, continue to vote Democrat. If you've seen enough, especially law and order, and we see it in New York City every day, the truth is Democrats are destroying our cities.
Is New York winnable? Is New York winnable for Trump?
I think miraculously he's got a shot, which that's a miracle. Wow. I don't think he's going to win it. I think J.D. Vance hurts him because it's a blue state, and you know how they feel about abortion and some of the issues. J.D. Vance, you see, here's the deal. Donald Trump is not a staunch conservative. Donald Trump was a Democrat for 66 years. And even his stance on abortion, I think, is very nice. He's compromised. He's there for the exceptions. J.D. Vance is not. So I think a guy like Vance hurts Trump in New York. I think it's in play. I think he falls just short. The better example may be New Jersey, but right now Donald Trump is just 1 point behind.
Donald Trump also said, when asked yesterday, what are you going to do with J.D. Vance? He said, park him in Pennsylvania.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Well, you got a great show.
Yeah. Rust Belt State, you're the best. Sid Rosenberg.
Thank you so much.
God bless you.
God bless you.